I've given up worrying about the intricacies of my personality that I thought were negative, but I now realize that every part of me is what makes me special.
All right, next up, he's the co-founder of Prep Access, now with an incredible story. Stephen Spencer, thanks for joining me on Truth Be Told.
Yep. Hey, Tony. Nice to see you. It's great to be here.
Diving right into your story, Stephen, like in 2018, you were diagnosed with HIV while you were on PrEP, which is so rare in itself. Take me through that part of your life and that experience for you.
Yeah, well, at the time, I was actually a PrEP advocate here in Australia. I started a grassroots organisation called Prep Access Now, where we helped people access generic forms of PrEP online and through online pharmacies. And so I had been working in PrEP advocacy for a number of years. And in one of my regular PrEP screenings, I went in and got my HIV test as usual. And I expected it to be the same result as it had been for the previous few years that I'd been on PrEP. But this one came back positive. And that was a really big year for me. It was the year I was turning 27. And while I don't believe in prophecy or anything like that, 27 is a really formative year for a lot of people. And I sort of look at it in that way because it was an opportunity for me to look at where my life was going. And my HIV diagnosis came at that really formative time. But I was really lucky, having been working in the HIV sector and been working in PrEP advocacy, that I was surrounded by support. I knew where to seek the support, and I knew where to go, so that I knew how to live happily and healthily as a person living with HIV. But that doesn't change, how shocking that news is. I remember after getting that news, I walked home, and it was only a 300-meter walk from the clinic to my house, and it was a rainy day. And I remember I dropped my umbrella about 8 times because I just kept on freezing and kept on going through that moment in my head and just wondering what on earth has just happened. Um, and my initial thoughts are about my own health, and I knew that I'd go on treatment. I started treatment on the day of my diagnosis, which is an incredible advance in itself. Because after commencing treatment, I became undetectable within 6 weeks. And so, knowing that I was starting treatment, I knew that I'd be okay. I'd be undetectable, things would be all right. But it still doesn't take away that shock factor. And, being on PrEP, which is such a rare thing to happen, one of only several, maybe a dozen cases around the world, it is a big hit. And it was a big hit not only personally, but also because of being a PrEP advocate, I had to sort of manage the expectations of the people around me and sort of revisit where I was going in my career. And I'd built my whole career around PrEP. And so it was really those next steps that I had to consider.
I'm drawing a lot of my experience through that too. When I moved to New York City, that was when I first officially came out, and then a few months after that was my diagnosis. And it's like you're on this high and low all at the same time, And what did you kind of go back into hiding a little bit? What was your experience there in terms of making it through that difficult period of time?
So in 2018, when I was diagnosed with HIV, just a few months before my diagnosis, I came out as bisexual. And it was many years in the making. And this month actually marks 4 years since I came out. So it's a really special time of year for me. But at the time, when I came out as bisexual, I had to face biphobia, bi-erasure, me questioning my own sexuality and going through that journey, which was a really, really intense journey. I'm sure a lot of your listeners will understand what it feels like to come out, whatever community they exist in. I existed within the LGBTIQ community. I came out as gay when I was very young, when I was 13, but that wasn't the end of the story. And so coming out as bisexual exposed me to all sorts of discrimination, all sorts of stigma, but also exposed me to the beautiful bi community that we have.
Yeah, and in a way, it really solidified your advocacy and your work, right?
Yeah, advocacy became a really big part of my journey, of my story. Like I said, I wanted to give back, and I was so lucky to have really powerful advocates around me that built up my capacity for advocacy. And, instead of being shown closed doors, I was shown open doors. If I had an idea, I could put it out there. If I had a program I thought would really benefit people, if there was an organization I wanted to start or contribute to, there are just so many opportunities there for you to give back and for you to create positive change. Everyone's got something to contribute. And with advocacy, I'm not expecting people to go out there flying flags or wearing badges or, exposing themselves to risk, say, coming out as HIV positive or coming out as bisexual. Um, it's
Yeah.
just about doing what you can do. It's about doing your bit. And even if it's a small bit, it's doing something to tear down at those walls of discrimination and stigma.
I just have to ask you one more question about this experience for you. Do you feel like having that knowledge beforehand and knowing about that continuity of care, do you think having that knowledge about this diagnosis like really prevented you from turning your back against the community after the fact? Because I know that there's a lot of that as well.
Definitely. I'm so privileged to have been put onto medication straight away, to know that there were services for me to access. One interesting thing that I learned though after my diagnosis is, the way that the HIV sector here in Australia, especially, is set up. There's sort of the HIV prevention world, PrEP, all of that, and then there's the world um, with services and programs designed for people living with HIV. And I'd always lived in one, and it took me a little while to actually find my feet in the other, to actually realize, oh, there are whole programs, whole communities of HIV positive people that I am an automatic member of. It was quite exciting, actually. And to be able to link in with that was really important to me and really important for my health, both physical and mental. It got me through those really early stages, and still today I'm engaged in them. I work in that area, and it's a real privilege to be able to do
Yeah.
that work, and it's a privilege to be around those people.
Yeah, and that's why this work, your work, is so important, and conversations like this are so important. Um, so cheers to that and to the work you're doing. And I want to switch gears a little bit because you mentioned this, but you came out as bisexual after identifying as gay for most of your life. What helped you explore that bisexuality? And what would you say to people who challenge bisexuality?
Um, it just, to be honest with you, it just reached boiling point. I'd been in the closet for 27 years of my life. I say that I came out as gay at 13, but that's not coming out. I came out as something else. I think back to when I got counselling as a young kid, and the counsellor would ask me, "Oh, so you see boys and you find them attractive?" And I went, "Yeah," but they never asked me about my attraction to women. So they always just said, "Oh, you're gay." So automatically, same-sex attraction means you're gay. But I'd had many meaningful relationships with women and continued to throughout my life. But I didn't actually have that language. I didn't have that understanding of what bisexuality was. And it didn't take until my mid 20s where I actually realized and had more experiences and realized I'm not living my life. I'm not living the life that I was meant to live. Um, and also, you know, growing up as gay, I jumped it right in the deep end of the gay community. And, within that community, there can be a great deal of misogyny, a great deal of biphobia. And so in those spaces, I did not feel comfortable to come out. And so it really just started building up inside until I got to 27 and got to Bi Visibility Day, which is coming up shortly at the end of September. And really went, enough is enough. I have to live my life. I can't continue living a lie. I can't continue living someone else's life. I can't continue doing what's expected of me as a gay man by the gay community. I need to do what I expect of myself, and that's to live wholly and truly to myself. That's what's really important to me.
I love that. And that just drives how important that just a touch of color anywhere, is so important because you don't know what kind of visibility you're carrying when people are around you. Um, Fast forward to 2022. You're the happiest, healthiest, most authentic ever. What would you say, Stephen Spencer, is your truth today?
What is my truth? You're seeing it. You're seeing someone that's whole and happy someone that is imperfect. I face a lot of hardship. Day to day, I experience HIV stigma, I experience biphobia and erasure. But through the power of community and through the power of connection and through the power of giving back, I just don't sweat the small stuff anymore. I've given up worrying about what people think of me, what people see in me. I've given up worrying about the intricacies of my personality that I thought were negative, but I now realize that every part of me is what makes me special. And it takes a lot of growth and development to come from a place where, you know, just a few years ago, I did not like the person I was. I was living someone else's life. I was doing things that I was never meant to do, that I didn't want to do. But I'm now in a place where I only do what I want to do. And that makes me happy. And that makes me living my truth. I used the analogy before of, stop swimming against the current, just run with the current of your life. And once you do that, you get to experience life in its fullest. Because I see so many people around me that just limit themselves and limit what they're capable of. And I've seen the incredible capacity for people to do good in this world. And that's what I hope to do. And that's what I hope more people will do. And there's so much out there to discover and to have fun with. Life is meant to be fun. It doesn't all have to be crap. When talking about HIV and bisexuality, the conversation so often goes to what does the stigma and discrimination feel like. But I also love talking about the joys of being HIV positive, the absolute joy of being bisexual. Having the ability to be whole and happy with your life. These are what makes me special. These are what make me a proud person living with HIV and a proud bisexual man.
I love that. And I couldn't have said it better myself. Stephen, thank you so much for sharing your story, your truth, and all that you're working on. I really appreciate it. And can't wait for all that's next.
Hey!
To see more Truth Be Told, everybody, check us out at pluslifemedia.com and follow us at pluslifemedia. Until next time, let your truth be told.